Good morning, everyone. Today is September 30th, the end of the month. Yes, we made it through another month, moving into October. I guess we've officially moved into the fall season out here in California, though, with 90 plus degree weather. How can you tell? Anyway, here we go. Another trading week. We're going to go over and take a look at the SPY cycle patterns first. I want you to remember that these are the guide to what is going on. I've already drawn out roughly 2 weeks worth of trading data. So you have to remember, we look at this week. I'm expecting this week to be moderately volatile, kind of sideways, trading around this big crush pattern on the second Wednesday. Then next week, I see us moving into, look at this, base rally, momentum rally, gap up lower in carryover mode, gap breakaway in trend mode, breakaway in counter trend mode, again on a Wednesday, carryover in carryover mode, and inside breakaway in trend mode. Then the following week, look, it almost repeats. Gap up lower in counter trend mode, gap breakaway, same thing here. Breakaway, perfect. Carryover, okay, perfect. And a temporary bottom. So, I mean, this week and this week are almost duplicates. Gap up lower, gap up lower. Gap breakaway, gap breakaway. Breakaway, breakaway. And then we move into carryover, and the only difference is we have an inside breakaway on the 11th versus a temporary bottom on the 18th. Now, this is, I believe, a pretty solid rally period. The next couple of weeks here, I think, are pretty solid rally periods. You do have that counter trend breakaway on Wednesday, and then you have a counter trend gap up lower on the 14th, which I'm registering potentially as an upward trend. But I believe we're into consolidation, and then we rally into this late period here, 17th, 18th, 19th, and then the topping pattern sets up over in this area. So it keeps essentially rolling the topping pattern later into October. Originally, it was in the early portion of October, and then we had the Fed rate cut. Then I looked over and I determined that I thought maybe this area would be a good area. You can see it goes all the way out here to the 24th, 18th, 18th, 19th, 20th. But really, this topping pattern is rolling out into this later time frame, out into this area here, and that's going to give us a pretty solid opportunity here for kind of a rally phase like this. So I don't believe that we have any real trending other than bullish over the next roughly 3 weeks up into this area right over here. So really, I'd probably move this up in this area and this up here like this, indicating we have that. This was the early topping phase, which now moves us basically out past the 18th or so. So there's our topping phase, rolling into this downtrend potentially right before the election and rolling into a rollover type of pattern into and past the election. Okay. So let's go back over here and take a look at the fact that, we've got to get through this week, which is an inside breakaway in trend mode, a Harami crush or Harami inside line, and then a crush pattern. So now let me explain to you. I've drawn these bars here, right? This will give us an idea of what's going on. We're a little bit lower on the market right now. I'm going to come down here into 30 minutes. Of course, I have to spread this out a little. And we are going to try to draw a little bit about what I expect. So you can see I've already drawn the bars kind of going out, what I expect. I expect melt up, moderate melt up, but in a consolidated range. So today's pattern is an inside breakaway leading to a Harami leading to a crush pattern, leading to a reversal rally, and then a counter trend up, down, up, which would be down, up, down. So what this means is that if I were to try to draw what I expect to happen, we would be in an inside breakaway mode, meaning we would be opening somewhere around this area, maybe in this area, and then we would be looking at a breakaway, moving up into this area, maybe. Then the following day, we get the harami, a consolidation period, moving into this period. Then we get the crush pattern, moving potentially into a downward pattern, possibly even off of these lows. Now we get a reversal pattern coming back up, and then we get the crush pattern or the end of day consolidation. So you can see here that the crush is, and I may have drawn this a little bit off, more like this, and where the crush pattern itself may open up in this area and crush downward and then revert a bit. And then the reversal rally sets up here, comes up, tries to revert back higher. And then the selling on Friday comes in this area and tries to roll back down. So understand, and I'll try to do these. So we have the inside breakaway moving up to here. Then we have the consolidation, the harami pattern moving into here. Then we have the gap up potentially. So here's this light blue. Here's our crush, dark red. And here's our end of week move here. And draw that again into this area, just melting downward. So there you get an idea of what to expect. An inside breakaway pattern today, moving to the upside, I believe. A consolidation pattern into Tuesday. A potential gapping breakdown pattern on Wednesday, likely to find some support and revert back to the upside in a squeezing manner, potentially on Wednesday, following into another rally phase, potentially up to a new high here on Thursday, followed by potentially a gap or just an inside rotation to the downside, having a morning sneezies. So this gives you an idea of kind of what to expect, but then we move into the following week, which I believe is going to be a pretty solid move. And you can see I've kind of drawn this. I'll get rid of this, but we move into the following week. We move into gap up lower, breakaway, and counter trend mode, carry over, and an inside breakaway. So gap up lower means that we move up here, gap up into this area, and trend downward. That's what that means. Okay, so I'll do this in a light green. And then we have right here, a breakaway and trending mode. A breakaway and trending mode is basically opening inside the range and breaking to the upside. Then we have a breakaway and counter trend mode. So a breakaway would be to try to break away from this range. In counter trend mode, could see this consolidating and trying to get down into this area in a downward cycle trend. Then we have a carryover in carryover mode, which would be kind of a rolling carryover upward trend. And then we have the counter trend up, down, up, which would be down, up, down. And that would put us in a down, up, down pattern like this. So we have that type of setup the following week, which gives us our melt up. So now if I were to readjust these slightly, bring this down a little bit, bring this down into this area, make it kind of a bluish color, and then move that. And lastly, we would have to have this over here, getting us set up for our downward cycle. So breaking downward, so we would gap up higher, still higher, still higher, breaking downward slightly, and then green, and then red, and then delete. Okay, so there you go. There's kind of the outline for the next 2 weeks. Now, I've done this before, and I challenge anybody to try to do this. Try to predict general price trending for the next 2 weeks as semi accurately as I'm intending to do here. Now, we will see how it plays out. Whether I'm right or wrong, we will see. But again, very few people can attempt to do this with any degree of accuracy. Knowing what I know with my cycle patterns, this gives me a pretty clear idea. And this again would be, if I really wanted to, I could essentially duplicate this week, these 5 days into this week, continuing to channel upward, as you see here, in this kind of an upward channel phase up into this peak. And I believe that's going to be pretty much what we're looking at over the next couple of weeks into that 605, 610 peaking pattern on the SPY. Okay, so let's see how it plays out. We've got some activity here. I've provided some more detailed information to my subscribers. But again, we've got this consolidation play. What's in front of you? You've got a pretty good opportunity today, very little opportunity on Tuesday, a good opportunity to the downside on Wednesday. Watch out for that reversion rally, a pretty good upward trend potential on Thursday, and then a pullback trend on Friday. You pretty much don't want to be holding into anything into Friday unless you're potentially going to try to hold some calls into early next week. Remember, we have this pullback potential trend on Monday, but then a big rally on Tuesday. So may be able to hold some 3 to 5 day calls into this move and pick your exit points up near this area. I mean, ideally, this would give you a good exit point here or here on your calls next week. Because if we could buy calls down into this low or down into this low, you can see you've got a nice solid move up here trying to get out off of those highs, potentially, if my analysis is correct. Okay, so this would carry over into the QQQs as well. Come back over here and back to daily and auto scale. We're looking at yep, I got a lot of lines out here. Let's get rid of some of those from the old excess phase peak pattern, which is no longer in play. Remember, we exited this excess phase peak pattern and we are now rolling higher. Okay, we still have the bigger excess phase peak ultimate high up here, but we have cleared this high. We're now in upward trending. And again, we're going to melt up in the same type of upward trending mode. So we come over here, and what we're looking at is we're looking pretty much at that same follow through, probably going to get up here into this new high. So I would say that we're going to be looking at a move up into this area and then moving into consolidation right before the election. So remember, the topping pattern now is more out in this area. And this would indicate again that we're going to probably see a moderate melt up into this area, up into around the October 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th area for the topping pattern, and then possibly rolling into moderate congestion right before the election, before we start to take off to the upside. So again, when you're following my SPY cycle patterns, they apply to the Qs. But remember, the NASDAQ is under a little bit of a constraint right now because of what's happening with the Fed. The Fed lowered interest rates, as you're all aware. That's caused a big shift in how capital works. Capital will be trying to rush back into the speculative stocks like Microsoft and Nvidia and others, but there's also a big shift into international markets. So understand that we're in a shifting period right now, about 30 days prior to the election, which is why I believe there's going to be a fairly solid pullback over here in this area, maybe a week or two before the election. I think the whole markets are going to come potentially not crashing down, but just move into that pause and wait mode, maybe the last 7, 10, 15 trading days before the election. Okay, let's go to gold. Gold is moving a bit downward, as you can see here. Spread this out a little bit. I had done quite a bit of work, in studying gold, what was going on, and most importantly, we have just crossed this Fibonacci price amplitude arc. You can see it right here. This price amplitude arc goes way back, to right here, to October 5th, 2023. But what happens as we cross these price amplitude arcs is that these are energy markers. These are energy markers that play out in price. And what happens with the price amplitude arc, if you know anything about energy, in fact, I tried to draw it here in a video last weekend to subscribers. Energy moves in cycles, in sine wave type cycles. We've just cleared this cycle right here. We've just cleared this cycle. Now we're going to get a little, excuse me, get a little pause in gold. I don't believe it's going to be substantial like I drew here, but we're going to get a little pause in gold, probably into this area right here, this 2650 area. And what's going to then happen is we're going to move into another moderate rally phase, which I believe is going to come back up into this area. Now, so in reality, we're looking at a brief pause here, support in this area, and then a rally up into this area. Okay, then we move into this topping phase that goes along with the markets around the 18th or so. So all of these need to be moved over into this area and into this area and into this area, and try to grab this ellipse, move that over here, and understand that we are then looking at the topping phase for gold setting up over into this area around 2750, rolling down into the pre-election topping phase somewhere into this area around October 29th, just before the election. And then right over here, we have the election taking place on the 5th, right there. And I believe from that point on, we're going to be moving upward. Right before this base, this rollover, I think we're going to be moving back to the upside. And eventually, ladies and gentlemen, this is our target. So by essentially November 25th to December 15th, our target, ladies and gentlemen, is up here, 3050. We're going up. And we're going to go see a very strong rally from this point all the way up into this point. We're going to see a move from essentially 2650 to 30 to 3050. And that's going to be a good, solid $400 rally. We just have to get through this right here. So you're going through a consolidation period into a moderate rally up into the 2750, 2770 area. Then we're going to be pulling back down into this 2650, 2670 area, then basing probably 7 to 10 days before the election, maybe, and starting to roll into this big rally up here to 3030 to 3055, let's call it. And my guess is it'll be between this time frame we will reach this period, this peak. Now, I believe that once we get up here, which is a very strong measured expansion, I believe we're going to probably reach a peak and stall out. So come over here to silver. And silver's going to pretty much do the same thing. So, oops, I don't want to go too long into the video today. I don't know how much time they give me, but so it's a Monday. Let's just go for it. So silver's going to roll into this mode here, consolidation for a day or two, then rolling into an expansion, then rolling into a contraction just before the election, possibly not as deep, and then rolling into very big expansion. And I would suggest that silver is going to move well beyond this 38 level, probably more so up into this 42 to 44 area on a big rally phase, breaking out of the post-election time frame. This should be our election right here. Yep, right here, November 5th. And so that means that silver would likely lag the base a little bit in gold, but here's what you're looking at. You're looking at a move consolidation probably around 31.40, moving up to 35, 34.75, $35, consolidating back down around 32.70, and then rallying potentially up to 41 to $45 on this big rally phase after the election. So you've got this little move, good solid move for traders, but then you've got this big move here after the election. Okay, and lastly, we'll go to Bitcoin. Bitcoin, as I mentioned to you, is just outside these consolidation ranges, and I really expected it to come down. Now we had we were testing the water, and you can see the levels that I drew here, expecting it to come back down here into this 60,000, 59,000, 61,000, basically $60,000 area. We've seen the big rollover this morning. You can see it moving down here right now. I'm still targeting this area here. I still think that Bitcoin as a hedge asset is going to be slightly undervalued in the sense that um, there's a big shift going on. As I mentioned to you, capital is out there seeking all kinds of investment and opportunity now that the Fed has lowered interest rates. And to be honest with you, there's so much out there to try to catch on a good solid 30, 35, 40% return on investment over the next 7 to 12 months. Bitcoin doesn't really look all that opportunistic. It's at 60 grand. It's sitting up near, pretty much near all time highs. It's in this consolidated channel. We have an election coming up. Some big news could be coming with regard to cryptos and Bitcoins. I see it moving down here into this area and really kind of just, struggling ahead of the election unless something big happens. So, my guess is it could come into this area. I mean, it could come back down and retest down in this area here, the old 57, 56,000 area, but I don't think that's likely. I think as we move into this area here and consolidate, I think we're going to try to, again, rally back up and try to get above this channel. I marked this channel a different color. I'm going to I'll make it bright yellow so you can see it. But ultimately, folks, we're going to be back up in this area near the election, probably, or just after the election, trying to roll upward. So again, we're looking for this downward move right now. I am. I think we're going to be moving down into this area, basing around 59, 60,000, and then rolling back up into this 63,000 near election time. Okay, good morning. Let's go get some this week. And remember, stay safe. This is going to be a fairly volatile week. So play what is in front of you. Don't get overly aggressive. All right, guys, talk to you later.